Before I get started, let me give a shout out to Jamal Ross for sending me this story. Let me tell you something right now. I never forget the face of a devil. And these two right here are two devils that I'm going to bring up a little blast from the past. We're going to take this back to April 12th, 2017, when a young black man, at that time age 21, by the name of Demetrius Hollins, was brutally beaten by these two devils in Georgia. I think it was Gwinnett County, if I'm not mistaken. Pulled out of his car and beaten mercifully. I'm getting my words all confused. Well, let's fast forward to today with this article that just came out, where it says that both of these cops have been indicted after the video surfaced of them beating that black man at that traffic stop back last year. They said a grand jury indicted them on 10 counts including battery and aggravated assault. It said the allegations came after cell phone video surfaced of the former Gwinnett County officers Michael Bongiovanni and Robert McDonald beating a black man who appeared to be compliant at a traffic stop on April 12, 2017. See, this is the thing right here, and I'm glad the article mentioned this. It said that he was being compliant. And see, you have the colonizer that often always thinks that when a black person is getting beaten within an inch of his or her life, that they weren't being compliant. That compliant bullshit is something that they come up with just to excuse whatever it is they do. How many white people have we seen be non-compliant and they don't get an ounce of what we would get? This is exactly why most black people, for the most part, do not trust these pigs. They just don't, and you can't blame them. But then you have white people out there that say, oh, the reason why y'all don't trust them is because y'all don't comply and we're this and we're that. Then they'll throw in Chicago and on black crime every chance they get. Meanwhile, they have all these mass shooters and attempted mass shootings popping up all over the place like bad ragweed. Let me continue. One video shows Bongiovanni striking 21-year-old Demetrius Hollins getting out of a red sedan with his hands raised. There's about 2-second pause, then Bongiovanni strikes the man in his head with the first or forearm, whipping him toward the door as the man struggles to keep his hands up. Even while he's being beaten, he's still keeping his hands up, or at least he's trying to keep his hands up. Because he knows that as a black man in this establishment, that if he was to let his hands down, that very minute he put his hands down, the mainstream media would latch on and say he wasn't being compliant or that they feared for their life. But hang on, this article gets more interesting. I already skimmed through it already, and some of the shit they came up with will make your head explode. Another video shows McDonald arriving at the scene where Hollins is already on the ground and handcuffed, running over to Bongiovanni and stomping on the prone man's head. The two lift the man up and take him off the street. The incident began after a routine traffic stop when Bongiovanni said Hollins did not follow directions and resisted when he was told to get out of the car. In an official report, Bongiovanni said he tased Hollins and handcuffed him after he resisted getting out of the car when McDonald arrived and stomped Hollins in the head. Now, I would like to know, how do you go from a simple traffic stop to stomping on this guy because he quote unquote resisted arrest? If the person resisted arrest, you just handcuff them and you put them in the patrol car and you drive off and take them to the precinct. They got in their feelings because, see, this is the thing. This is why I say most or many white people are not far removed from their slave masters of ancestors. They have a slave master mentality. If they say jump and we don't jump fast enough, bump saying how high, then they get upset because they feel we're being defiant. And how did the slave master act toward the slave? Whenever the slave acted defiant, what did they do? They whipped him, sometimes raped him, because they felt they were being disobedient. And that's what they saw him as. They felt they were the slave master and that Demetrius Hollins was the slave and he wasn't being obedient. And because of that, they had to beat his so-called disobedient ass. We're not in the slave fields anymore, so they couldn't whip them, at least not out in public. It makes you wonder what the home life for them is like. But anyway, both men were fired after a public outcry. We put a lot of money into recruiting, training, and equipping them, and there is literally no excuse for the behavior like this, Police Chief Butch Ayers told CNN. This is not what we teach in the academy. This is not what we expect from an officer. You know what I would like to see? Maybe they need to have an inside look on what they actually do teach at these academies, because over and over and over again, do they keep repeating and regurgitating the same old BS over and over again, and it gets tiring after a while. Oh, we trained them this way, we trained them that way. We didn't train them this way. This is not what we did at the academy. But it seems to me, maybe there is something in there that they don't talk about. Because it happens not just at one location, it happens at many, it happens at several. It's not like it's an isolated incident where it's always coming from this one place, but it comes from everywhere, whether you're in New York, DC, Chicago, California, Georgia, just about every state, Texas. It happens everywhere. So this whole thing that we don't train them this way is just, it doesn't fly with me. The case, and you know why they say that? They say that to save face, because they don't want the distrust from the public. Because we practically employ them. The case was forwarded to the Gwinnett County District Attorney's Office, which decided to seek felony charges. We are relieved to hear the District Attorney's Office is taking the necessary steps to address the criminal aspect of the behavior exhibited by these officers. These officers, and they put that in quotation, actions have led to a debilitating effect on our client, and we are grateful to those members of the Gwinnett County community who choose not to look the other way, but instead chose to document this incident. Both officers were indicted by a federal grand jury Wednesday. Bon Giovanni faces 8 charges and McDonald faces 3. The gates of the Coliseum are open wide. Bon Giovanni's lawyer, Mike Puglisi, told the AJC. And the crucifixion begins against these police officers. Meanwhile, McDonald's attorney said he would seek a separate trial, as McDonald's involvement was very brief and separate and distinct from any acts of Sergeant Bon Giovanni. Now, I want y'all to catch what just happened there. Now, we often say white people will be on code, but listen to this again, because he fell off code right here, in my opinion. He said, meanwhile, McDonald's attorney, McDonald being the other, the partner, said he would seek a separate trial, as McDonald's involvement was very brief and separate and distinct from any acts of Sergeant Bon Giovanni. Basically, in a nutshell, he's throwing his partner under the bus, and he's basically saying that he was influenced by his actions. Bon Giovanni's lawyer said the officer did not strike the man inappropriately, but used the method to turn the suspect around to handcuff him, and that he did not lie on his report. Okay, this is a method that I often see mainly on black people. I rarely, if I've ever seen it, on a white person. I remember I did a video last year where you had this white person who just got tased, but I don't know what happened. They managed to snatch them cords off and chase down that white cop, and then ended up hopping in the cop's car and drove away. I kid you not. McDonald's lawyer Walt Britt argues that McDonald's actions were reasonable given the emergency nature of his job and the situation. You gotta laugh to keep from being mad at this shit. So while his partner kind of got off cold, his lawyer definitely got on cold for him. He's saying that his actions were reasonable for what he did. So let's summarize this a little bit. Pulled over a black man at a traffic stop. Say he was resisting arrest, even though he had his hands up and he was compliant. They pulled him out of a car. They beat on himself, like brutally beat him. They hit him in the head. They stomped on him. It looked like almost like a gang initiation. As a matter of fact, let me pause the video right quick and let me show you something. This is how Demetrius Hollins looked when they took him in. So you can see he has a busted lip, busted nose, and maybe some other damages that we don't see, but that's just what we see on his face. You mean to tell me that's all a part of your protocol? If he was really resisting arrest, those two devils that were just up on your screen most likely would have some kind of injuries towards them. Maybe a scratch or a bruise. But they walked away clean as a whistle. But he's the one that's beaten and battered. And looked like he just got out of a fight that was actually a fair fight. Man, I tell you, they are something else. And then want people to feel bad for them and have the nerve to say that they have the most hardest job in the world. Get the fuck out of here with that. Y'all let me know what you think down in the comments.